Hey everyone, I'm Anya Esma. I'm a tarot reader and a shadow worker. I love speaking about shadow work, and today's video is going to be a little bit more in that direction because we are going to talk about apologies and about situations in which you might feel that someone owes you an apology or you owe someone else an apology. And we're just going to crumble that down, look at the details, and also identify in which cases I really do think you need an apology from someone, because there's one case in which you really do, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video. So obviously this video is going to require some honest self-reflection, because if we have conflicts with people, a lot of the time we need to be honest with our own part. So I'm going to speak about that and about how human conflicts can be resolved through shadow work and through possibly an apology from you or from the other person. I also want to talk about whether apologies are an egoic thing. Do you just need it for your ego? Do you need apologies in order to heal from something? I'm going to talk about that as well. However, I want to make it clear, very, very clear at the beginning of this video, that I am not speaking about deep, cutting, traumatic events or long-term trauma in this. I'm not speaking about, does someone owe me an apology for something actually traumatizing that they did to me. That is a whole other topic and a whole other beast about whether you need an apology from that person or you don't, or if you should expect one. That is not what I'm speaking about at all. I'm speaking about situations of everyday life here where we get upset, offended, triggered by something that someone said. Maybe we felt that they were disrespectful towards us. Maybe we felt, as I said, insulted, offended by their words or by their actions. That is what I'm speaking about here and how you can handle that. So not about traumatic events and about people apologizing for those to you. That's something completely different. Not speaking about that today. So let's go through the steps that I suggest if someone behaved disrespectfully to you, either verbally or physically, through their actions, something that they did that hurt you or offended you, and what the steps are that you can go through. So the first step is to think about why it offended you and do some shadow work around that. By shadow work, I specifically mean going through a process that looks different for everyone to think about the root cause, think about why it offended you, etc. I'm going to sort of outline it for you, but be aware that it works differently for everyone. You could also use tarot for this. You could use journaling for this. I'm just going to give you some rough questions that you can go through in order to figure out why something offended you or triggered you, that someone did to you. So if you had a conflict with someone, I would start by asking myself, what exactly is it that offended you so much that they said to you or that they did to you or in your presence or whatever? What offended you about it? What triggered you about it? I know that word is overused, but you know what I mean when I say it. So think about why and write that down. Now from that, you can go on to think about, have you felt this way before in your life? The feeling that you feel when you think about the offense, let's call it that, the offensive words, the offensive actions. Have you felt those feelings in some other situation before? And if so, what did that situation look like? What would you say was offensive to you then? So go deep with that. You can also use tarot at this point because it might be hard to identify. And then from that, you can go towards the root and say, okay, I have an idea of why this maybe offended me, and this is the root cause. This thing that happened in my childhood, or this thing that I believe about myself, or this thing that I don't want to believe about myself. All of these things can lead to you feeling offended or insulted by something. And then from there, you can think about whether there's a way to change that belief about yourself or change your perspective on the situation. Maybe see that you took it more heavily than the other person might have intended. Or maybe you're realizing, actually, the person really did want to hurt me. They really were rude to me. Now that's where step 2 comes in. Were they objectively rude, inappropriate, or disrespectful to you? And does that mean that you don't want them in your life anymore? So This is where it gets interesting, because we really have to look at the actions and words of the person and whether it fits your standard for what you would expect from a family member, a friend, a partner, whatever your group is that you group the person into, and whatever your standards are for that group. So you could say, if someone leaves a party, you're the host, and they just leave without saying goodbye to you, you might consider that rude, but you might also see, I understand, maybe they were feeling bad, maybe they were scared of my reaction, of them leaving early, etc. So you can see the other people's perspective. Whereas if you have something like they literally called you a curse word and there was not much reason to do it, honestly, there's never really reason to do it. But you know what I mean. Was it a heated discussion or something and they just did it? Or did they do it out of nowhere for no reason? Did they insult you personally, say that you're a bad person, etc.? If something like that happens, you're a lot more on the side where it's like, okay, this is objectively rude and not something they should ever say to someone. So there are things where you don't even need to discuss, was it my fault? What's my part in it? Or someone personally attacking you, for example, then you're like, okay, maybe there's some reason they did that, but did they have to use those words? Did they have to behave like that? It's all kind of up to your discernment. Now, don't play innocent. We all love doing that when we expect someone else to apologize to us. If you really understand why they said what they said and that there is truth to it, you can be forgiving without needing an apology because you understand why they said it. If the way they said it was super problematic, you might still expect an apology. Now, I think we all have the ability to step outside of ourselves if we want to and honestly assess if someone's reaction or action was 100% uncalled for and how they delivered it was wrong, or if it was an understandable reaction within that context. The thing for me is I always include everyone's perspective. If I think about something happening, a conflict, something bad happening to me, I always think, why did the person do that? Did they have a reason? And then I'm very, very forgiving, sometimes too forgiving, because within this step 2, we have to think independently of whether we want to forgive them. We have to think about whether we want a person like that in our lives. If the answer is yes, we still want them in our lives, then we come to step 3, which is you need an apology from them. If you don't want them in your life, none of this matters. But step 3 is literally the only case in which you can expect and require an apology. If you have now determined that it was totally uncalled for, it was plain rude for no reason, and you don't want them in your life unless they apologize, that's fair enough. However, it's not that you need an apology to move on. You do not need that. You don't need an apology from someone in order to forgive them and to move on. But you do need an apology if the logic in your brain is, I have standards and I could never speak like that to someone else and not apologize. So if the other person is capable of saying certain things to you, treating you a certain way, behaving in a certain way, and you're like, wow, I would never do that, and I would never want someone close to me who can behave like that and then not feel the need to apologize, that is when you should require an apology. If the person apologizes, then you can think, okay, do you still want them in your life? But I think a lot of the time, if it was very, very clear that it was the other person's mistake, they were rude, they lost their shit. We all do that sometimes. It's okay, it's not bad, but we do have to apologize for it. And as a person, you can have that standard to say, I understand why this person behaved like that, but I could never behave like that and then not feel the need to apologize. And that's the standard you have for family, friends, partner, whatever. So if you don't need them in your life, if you don't want them in your life, you don't need the apology. You can move on without the apology. It doesn't matter to you. Only if you want to keep them in your life, at least I think like that, should you expect an apology, and not for the egoic reason of, I want to be right. I want to know that they saw what they did wrong and that they hurt me, but for the reason that you say, I don't want a person like that in my life who can behave like that and then not apologize. So yeah, that's the reason you should expect an apology, and not because you need it in order to heal, because I think a lot of the time that's unnecessary. If you know that you were in the right, you don't need someone else to say, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's more about, now it's about them having to prove whether they can stay in your life or whether they are the kind of person who talk rudely and then don't even apologize and don't feel the need to apologize. So I hope that made sense. I don't know if I'm right about this, so I would love to read your comments. If you're saying maybe, nope, I don't want the person in my life, but still I would like an apology in order to be done with it, that's valid too in some situations, I assume. So I'd love to hear about that in the comments. So yeah, that's what I think. That's my opinion. That's my thoughts on apologies and on shadow working, whether you were maybe at fault in a situation or the other person was. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.